Hey listeners, welcome to Berlin 26.2 podcast. In this episode of the podcast, I sit down and chat with Faheemah Limbada from Johannesburg, South Africa. She shares her running journey, how she got into running actually through a casual park run, and then eventually actually ran a ultramarathon within 2 years of that first run. It's a very fascinating running journey. She also dipped a little bit into the running culture in South Africa, how Parkrun played a key role in cultivating and nurturing this running culture and the community around that. She got inspired to run the world majors by her friend, and Berlin Marathon was her first world major. And she's looking forward to complete the 6 of them. One thing that was really interesting to see her perspective on how she approaches races without any expectation at all. And she tried to enjoy every aspect of a race has to offer. I hope you enjoyed the story. I'm your host, Kamal Dada. Thanks for listening. Hi, Faheemah. Welcome to Berlin 26.2 podcast. I'm very excited to have you here and hear your running journey.
Thank you, Kamal. Thank you for having me.
Great. Let's start with, if you want to share a little bit about your background.
Sure. So I hail and stay in Johannesburg, South Africa. I have all my life. I'm a runner. Recreationally, not professionally, but I think even in saying recreationally does consume a lot of my free time, but it's because I enjoy it. Have been running for 7 years, so since November 2016. So at the end of this year, it would mark 7 years of running. And it's just been an amazing journey for me, very addictive sport. I did start small in that my very first run was just going to a local 5-kilometer park run. And I was the first female that actually finished, and they asked me to sign up to the running club. And then I entered a 10-kilometer race a month later. That was in November 2016, Soweto 10-kilometer race. And then the following month, I did my first 21-kilometer. And then 8 months later, I did my first marathon, my first 42 kilometers at Cape Town Marathon. And I did it in a time that actually qualified me to enter the Comrades Ultramarathon. And that was in 2017 when I qualified in September. And the following June of 2018, I ran my very first Comrades Ultramarathon. They actually added an additional kilometer the year I decided to enter. So instead of 89 kilometers, it was a 90.2 kilometer race that year.
Wow. So you basically started in 2016. Within 2 years, you're running an ultramarathon, looks like.
Correct.
That's pretty amazing. And then you ran this year's Berlin as well, right?
Yeah, so basically I have a friend, a very, very close friend of mine that just achieved her 6-star marathon status in Tokyo this year.
Oh, great.
So she was kind of the catalyst and inspiration because I never ever saw myself, I knew about the World Marathon Majors, but it never really was on my radar. But I think being friends with her and seeing the achievements, and she always said that you have to do a world major marathon to put it into perspective, the difference in why it is classified as a world major. So, I'm glad I actually took the inspiration from her because I had an amazing run in Berlin. I did a marathon PB as well. Wasn't planned. I just went out with no expectation. I wanted to just soak up the atmosphere of my first world major. It was amazing. I think just being part of something that I think when I reached the point at Brandenburg Gate, I'm not sure how many meters is left. I think it's like 300 meters.
Yeah.
I think that's when it actually dawned on me because I had a very good comrades this year. It was my fastest time. I ran in 10 hours and 2 minutes. So I think when I hit that gate, suddenly I just thought to myself, like, I've really had a big year this year. And I started crying, I think, from the gate right up until the lady gave me my medal, because then I needed to smile and look decent for the camera. So it was really great. I don't regret it. And a week later, I'm not sure if I mentioned to you, a week later, I got a result from the Tokyo lottery draw. So I was successful in that draw. So they will most likely be taking part in that.
So that's your second major next spring. I think it's in
Correct.
March, right?
Correct.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes,
Yeah.
on the 3rd. Thank you.
That's pretty amazing. So let's double click a little bit. So your friend inspired you to go for the world majors, and then you got into Berlin. So what did you hear before you went to run Berlin, and how did the experience, did it meet the expectations, or it was beyond the expectation that you heard from your friend, the overall experience running Berlin?
Definitely. I think it met all of my expectations. And I think being South African and having ownership to the greatest ultra marathon in the world, being the Comrades Marathon, I'm very afraid and familiar with international runners coming to our home ground. We also have another ultra race. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Two Oceans Ultra Marathon. So I'm quite familiar with race feel and the vibes that you get in a race. So I definitely had an expectation of what to expect. But yeah, I think just running and knowing that you're running a world major marathon, I think I'm one of those runners that go into a marathon without any expectations, because I generally feel if you expect too much, you may then be let down or disappointed. So, and I think it's the approach I take even when I run any 42 kilometer. I never go in saying, oh, I want to finish in this time, and because we really are at the mercy. The marathon is not an easy distance. From 30 kilometers onwards, you're like in a parallel universe, a pain cave. So I always go into all my races with no expectations, so that I don't know. I think I was just grateful to be there, and no disappointments in any of the happenings that I saw in the race. And I know a lot of runners that have done all of the majors try and compare. Like when I see these groups on Facebook, so like, no, like the support wasn't as great as Chicago, or I see those kind of comments. But I've decided that I would like to experience all of the majors individually. They obviously take place in different countries. There's obviously different cultural aspects. I've heard a lot about Tokyo as well. So I think it'd actually be unfair to expect a copy-paste experience at every major. I think you just gotta experience it for what it is and make the most of it. It's a privilege at the end of the day. I mean, it's only 1% of the world's population that have ran a marathon. So for me, it's just about being grateful to be there. And the goal is the stars. Like I'm literally chasing the stars so that I could also reach my 6th star.
Very well said, Faheemah. It's a very good perspective to go without experience and experience the races as they are instead of comparing with your previous experiences. That way, at least, you can enjoy and experience the race in itself, right? Versus you're always comparing other races. So you're like looking for those in the same race, which may be different culturally, country-wise, the way races are run, the experience altogether. Now let's go back to your 2016 time frame. How did you get into running, or why did you get into running?
It was actually because of my brother. So my brother had actually was 8 years younger than I am. I'm 43 at the moment. So in his late 20s, he had just suddenly got into running. He was always a footballer as his sport that he enjoyed doing. And then he got injured. He incurred an injury, like the injury that he had to install a pin in. So he just alternatively latched onto running. And he just was addicted. So I actually just wanted to see, out of curiosity, what does he get out of this? And at that point, he had run 2 Comrades Ultramarathons. He was in his 20s still. He hasn't even turned 30. So I just decided to then enter that local, we call them Parkrun. I'm sure you guys have them as well. So I just entered our local Parkrun, and I was the first. I think at that stage they weren't electronic, so we got little slips when you finished. And the guy gave me my slip and said, like, are you new because you're the first female runner that finished? Are you interested in joining our running club? But I think the feeling that I got afterwards, like only now I know it's actually endorphins, and that's why I run basically for the endorphin factor. And then I agreed. I signed up to that local running club, and they sort of mentored me. It was a very very comrades intrinsic focused running club that I was part of. One of the members actually had run 30 or 31 comrades. So I was surrounded by a lot of ultra runners, and they took me on as a new runner, mentored me, taught me about long distance running, endurance, what you need to do. So I think I was definitely in the right space that nurtured me to complete my first Comrades Ultramarathon.
Wow. Wow. How is the running culture overall in Johannesburg or in South Africa? Is it pretty common to
Uh,
folks
yes,
running, or
yes.
there are more other sports that you're competing with?
I think running is kind of been, if I could describe it as the word, the culture, it's explosive. Not
Oh.
only Johannesburg, it's South Africa as a whole, and I think it's by virtue of the fact that we have the Comrades Ultra Marathon.
Hmm.
It's kind of a wrong culture to create, but even amongst runners, uh, runners kind of only take you seriously when you say, I've ran Comrades Ultra Marathon. I mean,
I
which
see.
is a wrong concept to have, because I mean, for some
Yeah.
runners, just finishing a half marathon for them, it's like a huge achievement. Or just finishing a 42. For some, one person's 42-kilometer could be the Comrades Marathon in their world. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it's really, I think the running culture is really massive in South Africa. It doesn't matter which city or province you reside in. I mean, I travel often to Cape Town to take part in running trail races as well.
Hmm.
Um, from the early parts of the morning, even to the evening, you'll always see people running out, whether it's on the road, if it's in suburban cities, seaside cities. Uh, I think by virtue of us having comrades, we've got a huge running culture, many running clubs. And I think as of lately, people have moved away from traditional running clubs. We've got many informal running crews
Hmm.
um, with various programs. There's couch to 5 kilometer programs. The
I
running
see.
club I'm a part of hosts those kind of things. And I also think that the advent of COVID has actually, I think we had serious restrictions in South Africa. I think with
Hmm.
most of the rest of the world, where we couldn't even exercise for, I think, like 6 months. So the culture definitely expanded since then. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with an individual called Bruce Price. He's won the Comrades Ultra Marathon 10 times. So he's kind of the king of Comrades Marathon, as call him. So he actually uh, brought the Parkrun concept to South Africa. So he rolled out Parkruns throughout South Africa just to get people moving, fit, active. So we definitely have a huge Parkrun culture as well. And I think from a running maturity perspective, we like a huge running. The culture here is huge when it comes to running. I think mostly because of Comrades Ultramarathon.
Oh, great. Just to get a sense on the scale of this park run, like how do you see, like in the city of Johannesburg, is it pretty common, like multiple park runs are happening, or there are multiple running clubs that are organizing those park runs?
Correct. So literally, it's all of them are rolled out under the banner of Parkrun, which is a
Oh, okay.
franchise. But they literally free, open to the community. People come with their pets as well.
Oh,
You don't
nice.
even have to be a runner. Some people walk the park run. And it's a fun incentive because you scan your barcode scanner and people start telling how many park runs you've done. So if you've done your
Oh,
50th
okay.
park run, you get recognized. There's a special mention of your name at a specific event. You get a T-shirt as well. Same for the guys that go up to 100 park runs or more. So I think that culture has kind of spurred. I think 9 out of 10 times that's where most runners are starting now. It's where I started at a local park run.
Oh,
So yeah, it's
nice.
the basis. Yeah.
No,
And I suppose
that's pretty
everybody
good.
that's done a marathon, that's where you started. I mean, you would have started training towards the smallest distance, which is 5 kilometers.
That is true. That is true. In US, it's very common that probably you started your running journey with in Thanksgiving, every town has this called Turkey Trot, which is a 5K. Usually, it's a family friendly. You can bring your kids, pets, everyone. So a lot of people start running there. I mean, it's not a very organized, um, very well like park run you're mentioning, right? You're mentoring. It's just like fun run before you have your heavy meal in the evening. Just go for a run in the
Mm,
morning. That you can say that, hey,
wow.
I earned my turkey, sort of. But I'm glad to hear this concept of park run. It's definitely bringing a lot of runners, develop those healthy lifestyle. You mentioned so many times about comrades. I really am curious to learn a little bit more because some of the guests that I had on the podcast, they also ran comrades and then they talked very highly about the race. you started with 5K. Within 2 years, you're thinking of running 90-kilometer race, which is an ultra marathon. Like, how was the training different, training for a marathon versus an ultra, especially in the Comrades, which is highly regarded? Or you're not a runner unless you ran Comrades. I think that's what you mentioned, right?
Correct. So yeah, in terms of the differences in training, it's massive. I think I am familiar with, because I have lots of running friends who aren't Comrades runners, but they would be training for a specific marathon or maybe 2 marathons a year. So obviously the training, because of the distance being double, the training differs greatly. It's more about high mileage weeks. And it depends on what time you aim to finish the marathon in. So we all runners have 12 hours to finish. That is the cutoff.
Oh, okay.
So from the time the gun goes off in the morning, which is at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, you have until 5:30 p.m. So you've got 12 hours of running. So naturally, depending on your abilities, like when I entered my first one, I just aimed to finish. I didn't have an actual coach. I do now. So I just, we have the official coach of the Comrades Marathon called Lindsay Perry, and he had a free program, just a free training program called a finisher program. And I followed that like 100% compliance. And so the finisher program was equipped to let you finish within 12 hours. And I finished in 11 hours, 12 minutes. That was my first one. And then on my third one, I then hired a coach. But now that I know and familiar with the training, it's high volume mileage per week. So the concept of a marathon is more equipping your body to endure getting to 42, basically. So most traditional marathon programs that we follow, you'd be running on average 40 to 50 kilometers a week. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with mile metrics and what they would mean. I know in the USA, you guys are way more familiar, but I'm going to speak mostly to kilometers.
That's okay,
That's all I know. So you'd run as a beginner marathon trainer, you'd run approximately 50 to 60 kilometers a week, starting with your long runs. Sundays are long run days, so you do your longest run at endurance space. We call it LSD, so long, slow distance space. With Comrades, it differs in that the training you would do is you would do 2 LSDs over a weekend. So you'd on a Saturday, you'd get up and do like 25 kilometers. Next morning, get up and do the same thing back to back. And basically the principles around Comrades is basically teaching yourself how to be training and running on tired legs. Because it is a long day in the running office when you get to the actual race day for Comrades. There's some points in the race where the pain that you feel in your body, mentally, certain stages of the race, you actually, most veterans say that the race starts at 60 kilometers and that from that point onwards, running with your mind, you're not running with your body. So the training differs in that you're doing a lot of running and mileage per week. And by the time Saturday comes, you're already tired from maybe 4 runs in the week. And if you're part of, like me having a coach, so part of quality runs and sessions, I may already have done 2 track sessions per week. So by the time Friday comes, like I said to you over email, Fridays, I look forward to it. It's my one non-running day. It's my race day. And then you've got to prepare your body for 2 back-to-back runs. So whether you're tired, you make sure you do it because you're teaching your body endurance in pushing on when you're tired. And that's what the actual race day and actually achieving the Comrades medal is about, is pushing beyond when you're tired, your body's in pain. It's the ultimate endurance, basically.
Wow, that's amazing. From a mental game point of view, you said after 60 kilometers, when it's pretty much you and your head get to the finish line. If you compare it to your marathon, which is, I think, so 20 miles, it's the last 6 miles, which is probably after 30K to 42. That's kind of the mental game. Correct. How does those two compare? Because you have done both.
I think it definitely, having done the 90, it makes your 42 way easier.
Easier. Okay.
If I'm feeling very tired or feel like, because as runners, you get to a point where we call it the pain cave, where you just want to complain and you question your decisions, like, why am I here? Why did I enter this?
Yeah.
But running the Comrades actually makes, it teaches you endurance and not only about the running, like I always say in my own experience, after having run the Comrades, any life challenge that you feel afterwards, you almost tackle it with a different perspective to say, I've done harder stuff than this. This can't be that hard, So
Mhm.
I think it definitely teaches you to endure, to be. I know being female, and I've read a lot of like studies around ultra distance running. I do think females are better in endurance than the males. I think the males are very competitive in that they may push out faster and they may be physically stronger than us, but I do feel that when it comes to endurance, females are stronger.
Mhm.
And the coach of the race actually says that when they analyze the stats, in terms of pacing, finisher stats, the women are way better. So yeah, I think
I
that
see.
also helps. But every individual is different, and if you already have mental strength as a trait, like an inherent trait,
Mhm.
that's half the battle won at Comrades, because it really is more mental. People think it's more physical, but I would say it's more mental than physical completing.
Awesome. Definitely you're getting a lot out of running, Faheemah. I'm just curious, what do you get out of running? Because these are really physical undertaking, mental undertaking, a lot of time away from your family. Like, what do you get out of running?
I think I mentioned that endorphin word earlier on, so
Hmm.
definitely that. And I do feel that, for example, after Berlin, generally after a marathon, it's usually like downtime or recovery time.
Sure.
Um, but a few days without running, and immediately you feel like you start like the not negative, but you just feel like in a slump. You feel like in a mental slump. You don't feel motivated. So I definitely think I'm running for the endorphins factor. And then aside from that, it's kind of a family away from family, especially in the culture that we have in South Africa, because it's very running crew or running club oriented. So it's kind of like also the interpersonal aspect. Whether you run early in the mornings, I'm more of an afternoon runner, evening runner. So I know that particular point you're going to be meeting up with fellow running community, finding out where people are. I'm a very much a social runner. I make friends at every new marathon that I enter. I befriended somebody at Berlin Marathon as well. So for me, it's the social aspect, and then coupled with the endorphins factor, just overall well-being, the mental health aspect as well. There's so many positives, and I think you only realize it when you don't run for a week. You actually see what that does to your mental space
Yeah,
and your
yeah,
personal space.
yeah. So true, so true. And you mentioned you had a coach, or you have a coach. I was wondering, what is the difference, you know, training or running for races with coach or without coach? I'm sure you've seen a significant difference.
I have, because I have been on both sides of the fence. So as a
Hmm.
new runner, which I think is most new runners, is that you just see what the next person is doing or your running friends are doing, and you're like, okay, they're entering a half marathon. I think I'll do the same. And you get invited to training runs, like, oh, we enter this marathon, please join us on this run. So you're literally just doing what everybody else is doing. So I think in summary, it's unstructured training.
Right.
It's literally, just training, just running without any clear plan. And what I've learned from having a coach now, 2 years now, is that they definitely have the expertise to, what's the word, to untap what you already have. Because I mean, if you've been running, and that's what I realized before I had a coach. I did 2 Comrades marathons, and the times, my second year was actually worse than my first year, because I incurred an injury on the run. My ITB failed me. And that's when I actually realized I'm kind of, that cliche that says you can't do the same things and expect different
Different
results.
results. Yeah.
And that's when I realized, I've been running a long time, not to blow my own head, but I felt like I've done the ultimate. I've done 2 Comrades marathons. There must be a better way to improve. And that's why I actually signed up to a coach. Yeah, I haven't looked back. I think in terms of the how to answer your question, how it compares, having structured training is much better in that sometimes I'm not sure why I'm expected to do something, and I would question my coach. Like she'll have a long run for me on a Sunday, and I would expect rest on Monday, and then I've got like a track session where I need to do like super fast pace on the track. And then in my mind, that doesn't make sense. I would say, like, but this is actually like torture. And then I would ask her, I normally do question why I'm doing whatever I need to do on my program. And I think that's the benefit of the coach, is that you learn all of the science behind why you're doing this, why you're doing a specific run so
Mm-hmm.
many days before a marathon. And she just said to me, it's not because I'm punishing you, it's just to release all of that lactate out of your legs. It actually benefits you. So yeah, I definitely think the structured training helps, and I've seen it in the outputs. This is my second year with a coach, and I've been doing personal bests on every single distance, from my 5 kilometer time to my comrades time as well. So I'm definitely an advocate of structured training plans, whether it's through a coach or any other method or channel. It definitely will benefit you, especially if you're at if the stage of running where I am at, we almost like a seasoned runner. I think as a new runner, I was quite happy. Like, people always ask me, do I regret not signing up to a coach in the first year? And actually, I don't regret that, because I think that's how you learn. It's kind of trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm able to answer your question now, because I have been on both sides of the fence as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the areas that I know I chat with, I think most of the folks on this podcast as a guest, the support system. So you mentioned a couple of areas already that was part of your support system, your running community, the coaches. Um, are there any other support areas that let you chase your goals that you feel is really tremendously helpful?
I would say, like, I'm surrounded, like, everybody supports me. I think something I omitted to tell you in the beginning is that all of not my marathon runs, all of my comrades runs, I personally run for charity. So I've done
Oh, okay.
4 now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my dad is a cancer survivor, a prostate
Oh,
cancer survivor. So in South Africa, the actual race has got 6 official charities that it's not mandatory, it's optional. So they give runners an opportunity to run for charity and raise funds for, you choose which of the 6 charities. So I've always chosen it's called CHOC Cancer for Kids Foundation.
mm-hmm.
So I've done 4 of my comrades run. We have raised funds for charity, and naturally, when you do a fundraiser run, because I've done it so many times, you do need a large network of people that's going to support you.
Right.
And my second run, which was quite tough, I actually contemplated quitting because I was in so much of pain. That's the difference when you're doing a fundraiser run, is that I almost felt obligated that I can't let my donors down. So to answer your question, in terms of supporters, I look at my supporters as everybody that helps me, funds me in my charity runs. And so the people I work with, I usually reach out to everyone I know. So my colleagues, my family members, relatives, all my running colleagues. So definitely, I would include all of them in my support structure, because they really help me in all my endeavors. Like, I never really need to plead with, because we have a limit that you need to, like a minimum
Mm-hmm.
amount you need to fundraise.
Mm-hmm.
And I always exceed that target, because people are really supportive. And that also answers your earlier question. Like, when it comes to sports, South Africans love sport, and especially if you couple it with a good cause like charity, people are always willing to put their hands in the pocket.
No, so nice. You are also actually building an additional accountability, right? As you hit the wall, or when you're racing, hey, I cannot let the folks who believed in me down to quit in between. So because you're building that
Definitely.
additional accountability for the folks who are supporting you for this the race or the goals you're chasing. Great. So what's next for Faheemah now? I know you're
Well,
doing Tokyo.
definitely number five for comrades. So ironically, we have a qualification period window in which you need to submit. So basically, to enter the ultramarathon, in case you're ever interested in running it yourself, is you need to run a 42. And that's the other trait of us. We always try and convince other people to enter comrades. That's another trait, because I see I'm doing
Okay.
it with you.
Okay.
So yeah, basically you need to run a 42-kilometer or marathon distance in under 4 hours 50. So you basically have 4 hours 49 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
59 seconds, and you can get into the door to run
Oh,
comrades.
great.
So literally Berlin qualified me to do my 5th comrade. So yeah, that's next for me. But I think prior to that, obviously, Tokyo.
Oh, great. When is Comrades usually? Is it in spring?
So it's in South African winter, so it's a fixed date. It would be the first Sunday of every June. So usually around the
Okay,
8th or the 9th of June every year. It was
great.
9th June this year.
In June.
So it would
Okay.
be in, I think, your summer period.
Right. It's the start of our summer. Yeah, so great. So you'll get at least a little breather between Tokyo and your Comrades as you're going to do or train further post your marathon there. Well, wish you all the best, Faheemah. It was lovely chatting with you. I hope best
Thank
of
you.
luck for Tokyo and Comrades next.